And so the 2024 preseason officially comes to a close. Mercifully, it's one that by all accounts was utterly grueling and pushed our squad to the very limit, which is kind of the point. In this episode, I will look back at some of the finer moments and points of that Dortmund game. I'll also have a look at the squad depth as transfer rumors continue to swirl around Aston Villa. And I'll get to, for the first time this season, preview the real thing with West Ham looming on the horizon. Oh, and I'm going to give away one of these too. So let's get cracking. Borussia Dortmund 2, Aston Villa 0. From Holy Trinity Show headquarters here in British Columbia, Canada, and presented by 24/7 Services, who I wish could just fly over and give me a little Parlour refresh here, because, I painted the wall you see behind me in like 2014, and, it could use a little bit of upgrading. But I did refresh my kit, as you could see. This is a 2XL. It's very comfortable. I like the little extra real estate, even though I could fit into a single XL. No Champions League patch on that one. I don't really care too much because I'm a grown adult. I am giving away this XL version of the kit. Also, no Champions League patch, sorry. All you have to do is email me at the address below and send me your address and a photo of where you consume this podcast. That's it, your address and a photo of where you consume this podcast to the email address below. I'll draw it on Friday and make the announcement during the West Ham game. I've been reflecting a lot on this past preseason, and it's been very different to the last couple, and I'm still trying to sort through how do I feel about it? And how I think we all need to feel about it is by basing our opinions on criteria. Like, for example, I've never thought that results are the most important part of preseason. It's merely a bonus. Obviously, conditioning and load management, if it's not the most important thing, it's one of the most important things. And our challenge this year is that we were introducing our key players back in stages from international duty. So on one hand, that's a good thing because you have no choice but to test your squad. On the other, however, there's been very little cohesion with the group, unlike last year, for example. The other major and obvious objective from this preseason is to integrate new players with the system that Unai Emery likes to play, which would have been difficult this year because it was a lot of game recovery travel, and there hasn't been a lot of training time, which is one of the reasons why I think we're probably going to go with a very established and trustworthy squad on Saturday, much like what we would have seen for most of last year, and give the new players time to really fully understand Unai Emery's very specific system. I think the other thing that they're going to do a lot this week is video work on Emery's Basque adversary, Julen Lopetegui, and how he traditionally likes to set up and play. But for me, the biggest objective we achieved this preseason was by pushing the players to their absolute limits against good opponents in difficult conditions. 3 years ago, would we ever have imagined playing the Champions League runners-up in their own barn as the last test before the regular season? Most coaches would want, a good test, but also a confidence booster heading into that regular season. Not Unai Emery. This is the demanding nature and the degree of difficulty of playing in front of 81,000 fans against a good side. That is completely different, especially considering it was largely still an experimental type squad. That is bold. Last year, we wrapped up preseason away at Valencia. The year before that, it was at Stade Rennais, and we won both of those games by 2-1. But this is a completely different proposition. Champions League runner-up, well-drilled, hard-pressing, impressive, hostile stadium, and they would be very disappointed if they didn't reach the later rounds of the Champions League this year and could possibly even consider themselves as a Bundesliga Bundesliga title hopeful. And that game on Saturday came on the heels of a game in Birmingham on Wednesday against the defending Copa del Rey winners and Europa League participants this season, Athletic Club. One of the hallmarks of this preseason, and I think it was designed this way, was the challenging nature of travel and turnaround times. When you think about it, we went from home to Slovakia, then to Columbus, Jersey, and then Chicago, back home, and then to Germany, which was Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday in 25 days. And the last time we've had just an exclusively training week, which is what we're facing now, was the 17th of July. And maybe most importantly of all, apart from the knock that Robin Olsen took, let's touch some wood here, looks like we've come through relatively unscathed. So this is very deliberate conditioning of our players, both mentally and physically, and maybe most importantly, preparation-wise. I mean, these players have to learn how to travel. What do you do on the plane? How do you rest? When do you eat? When do you recover? All these things are ahead of us in Champions League football this year. Of course, we'll learn our opponents at the end of this month, but also the League Cup, which for Aston Villa starts in round 3, which takes place in the week of September 16th to 23rd. For me, this is a chance for Unai Emery to, again, play a rotated squad to see how well they understand the systems now, because we're going to need them. In the meantime, it's almost a luxury to have a week between games to work on the training ground and, of course, prepare meticulously for the weekend's opponents via video work. Obviously, I'm buzzing for this season to get underway, and Paul Handsaker and the 24/7 services crew, because most of them are Aston Villa fanatics, they are also buzzing. There's some buzz cutting happening at Alex's barbershop in the royal town of Sutton Coldfield. Alex has just got the 24/7 services total refresh, kind of like Unai Emery's squad refresh. My kids would say that Paul Handsaker is a chill dude until something is not up to par. And that's when the Unai Emery demanding part kicks in to ensure positive results for you. And like Unai Emery, when Paul finds squad members who can deliver those results, he hangs on to them for dear life. And that's why the company has these contracts with big players, Network Rail, the co-op chain of food stores, and the 24/7 services playbook. The strategy, the tactics, simple. You get a fair quote, you get materials at cost, and then the team works its magic. You can go to the website and see some of the past projects they've undertaken, and from the website, there's also a contact us form so you could start your project. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a lot of Borussia Dortmund fans in my life. It's a huge worldwide supporters base, but they just love to reach out. And because I'm German and I love Germans, I could say this, but they say things like, "You're not Champions League quality. You're more Conference League quality." And I don't understand why an Ian Maatsen would drop down and ruin his career by going to Aston Villa when he was with us in this Champions League final. This makes no sense to me. To which I would respond by saying things like, why would a big club like Borussia Dortmund put the television cameras in their big stadium facing the sunset? You can't even see the games. This is not Champions League. This is Conference League. I wonder how much Kolsch, the regional beer of the Köln and Dortmund area, was consumed by this fine group, because they were in great voice on Saturday. 3,200 Villa fans at the Dortmund Stadium. As for the game itself, we started quick and very tidy, but then, in my opinion, came the inevitable long periods without the football as Dortmund press high, press hard, press all over the field and often, and that's still a legacy of the Klopp era at that club. But if West Ham wants to press us hard on Saturday, we will be ready for that. The 2 goals conceded were not great. There was no VAR in this game, and had this been a Premier League match, I do wonder if the contact might have been a little soft to award a penalty. But, Ezri Konsa's just back. Does he have his timing right? And this is one of the issues of having him come back only on the final preseason game of the year. And even though our penalty whispering goalkeeper guessed right and even got a fingertip to the shot, well done, Emery Chan. But I like to look beyond just the final actions that led to the penalty, but do more of a forensic investigation into how the change of possession occurred in the first place, the transitional moment. The culpability of this goal falls largely at the feet of Jadon Philogene because Pau Torres does well to come out of the back. Then he plays the ball wide, and Philogene is waiting for that pass to come. And I'm sorry, when you're playing against a pressing team, you've got to step to the ball, maybe try to win a foul, shield it off, even though the referee was not calling any of those in this game, which does tend to favor the home side that presses a lot and steps into duels often. But one of the things I've liked about Jadon Philogene is his willingness to come back and support his defenders. On this occasion, though, he's got to step towards the ball and he's got to make a play rather than waiting for it. A similar story played out not moments later for the 2-0 goal when John McGinn tried to thread a through ball into Luca Dean. It was telegraphed a little bit, spotted, cut out, and now with Dean way up the park, we were imbalanced on that left-hand side, and this is where we may potentially miss Douglas Luiz because that was his gift. His ability to know when to try something like that, and then the weight and the accuracy of his pass. Now, I have felt that throughout this preseason, John McGinn has looked a little bit labored at times. And I think that's partially his age. I can't blame him for mentally maybe taking the foot off the gas a little bit in preseason because he's been through so many. But I expect that we're going to see a much sharper John McGinn come the weekend. What happened after that, though, was rather sloppy, and Pau Torres' gift, the reason why Unai Emery wanted him so much was because of his ability to wriggle out of congestion with the football, and he did it numerous times in this game and in his Villa career. But we cannot be surprised when, every once in a while, he's dispossessed like this from the blind side. And here I'm curious too, this is Emi Martinez's first game with us this preseason. That's an awkward situation. What kind of instruction did he give? How urgent was the shout, or by any of Torres's teammates for that matter? After this, though, cool finish, and in the context of any game, you allow bang goals like that inside 2 minutes away from home and you're 2 bagel down, it's going to be very difficult to come back. And I'm not having this Pau Torres moaning either. It's incredible sometimes how football fans can react to a mistake in a preseason game, forgetting the reason why we have this player in the first place and what he brings to us. Like, for example, he was directly responsible for the first 2 goals on Wednesday. The first one was the penetrating through ball to Rodgers, which then led to the Jacob Ramsey breakaway. And then in the 2-1 goal, he plays a perfectly weighted ball that invites Luca Dean forward on the left-hand side. That leads to Philogene's goal. He can get out of a jam more often than not. Yes, sometimes he's going to lose it, but his gift, his ability to see the whole field and then break the vertical lines of confrontation with something that is called the packing rate, completing a pass through players to a teammate. And he's high in Europe's best of that category. Now, what I think Unai Emery will be most annoyed with over that 2-0 goal was just how we didn't manage that situation after conceding the first one, because now you have noise, energy, and adrenaline in the building, and our manager is not just about structure and systems and tactics. He is obsessed with moments and how to manage them. When to take risks, when to be urgent, and when to, at times, calm the game down, put your foot on the ball, and control or manage it. That will have come up in this game's debrief, and ironically, it was his captain, one of his seasoned campaigners, who decided to be urgent in that moment and try to get it all back right then and there, which to me is a symptom, perhaps, of mental fatigue after a very taxing preseason. Did we create enough going forward? Probably not, but remember, we are without our transformative number 9 striker, who is our focal point, and that changes everything. Now, the front 3 we did have, if you averaged their age between the 3 of them, 21 and a half years. If you took last season and added up the amount of Premier League experience between the three of them, it would be 27 games divided up. That's 9 Premier League games average experience between the three of them. Of course, Philogene didn't have any, and they've never played together in the Premier League before. So Unai Emery had faith, gave them the opportunity. They would have took in and onboarded a lot of information, and that information may come in handy down the line. The one glorious chance that we should have converted came from a forward press and a Dortmund error. And here's where Cameron Archer makes a really weird run, because right out of the gates, this should have been a shot on target at the early moment, and Archer's run would have blocked off that shot. And here's where I just wonder about Cameron Archer, who's a fantastic fox in the box poacher with the ball at his feet, but sometimes you wonder, does he have the off-the-ball intelligence and instincts? Does he still have to learn a lot of that stuff? Because it was a weird run, and then it does come to him in the end, and he can't slot it, unfortunately. One other little conclusion that we could probably draw from the preseason as a whole is that Kosta Nedeljkovic should probably be part of this Premier League squad now. And I know he's probably going to get done a couple of times this season because he's just so raw. But his pace and his ability to get out of things or recover, and his patience in not diving in, which is common among young players, well, that is a maturity for the position well beyond the years, and what a signing this player could be. Having said all of that, I'm still thinking cash starts on Saturday. Yuri Tielemans has looked sharp, crisp, and season ready, and he also looks like the one who is directly filling the role vacated by Douglas Luiz. And of course, last year he was not happy with the amount of game time he got. Well, now he's earned it. Now he has to prove it. And I'm comforted by the fact that he's playing alongside his international countryman, Amadou Onana, because they have a relationship already and they should complement each other. What will be interesting, however, is if we do, say, land an elite number 10 attacking type, and who then might make way between McGinn and Tielemans. That's a big decision. On the transfer front, and as I'm recording this, it appears as though Villa is on the verge of trading one right-footed defender for another, but getting significantly younger in the process, as it looks now like Diego Carlos is going to leave us for Fulham this upcoming season. And meanwhile, the Villa scouting vultures are circling around Feyenoord's Latcherel Gartrouder. This is a 24-year-old who just turned 24 in July, helped Feyenoord win their league, can play across multiple positions at the back, and because of the contract situation, of which he's in the late stages, that could be very advantageous for us fee-wise. Just looking at the overall depth of our squad, once again, keeping in mind the club needs to submit its final squad list of 25 after the transfer window closes. But this is 22 names here without John Duran, potentially coming in Gartrouder, and maybe some other player we've been linked with all summer. I still have questions around a couple of names here, including Alex Moreno, maybe even Robin Olsen. And I do wonder if Alex Moreno's situation will dictate whether we carry on chasing Mario Hermoso, who apparently we've made an offer to, and who now has a new agent. One to watch. All right. Are you ready? Because here we go. It's for realsies now. The new campaign officially kicks off this Saturday in East London. Like last year, a later kickoff, which kind of did trigger me a little bit because last year was rather traumatic. So anything better than a 5-1 defeat in which we lose 2 of our key members to season-ending injuries will be most welcome. Here are some basic facts that I will include in all of my opponents' previews during the course of this season. I think average age, amount of national team players, and the overall squad value are interesting numbers because it gives us some sense of context. Now, as you probably know, we have not won at the Olympic Stadium, and in fact, our last 5 visits to West Ham United have not earned a victory. 3 1-all draws, 2 2-1 defeats. So traditionally, this has been a very tight, low-scoring fixture. West Ham United's squad on paper even last year worried me, and all they've done just of late is to add to that squad when you think about Tobito and Kilman as new center backs. They've upgraded Ben Rama with Somerville, a younger, trickier version, possibly even. And then they have Nicholas Füllkrug, who even at 31 can certainly be very handy as a focal point. And that's on top of an established core that has maybe one of the trickiest players in the league in Kudos. So this will be a challenge. My question is, will it take time for those players to figure each other out, because many of them have only just arrived, and will they have to figure out their new manager's ways and systems? And the funny thing about opening day games, they could be chaotic and very adrenaline-fueled affairs. That could be good or bad, but usually that does kind of benefit the home team. Also not entirely favorable from an historical statistical standpoint is Unai Emery's personal record against his fellow Basque tactician Julen Lopetegui, the new Hammers boss. They've met all time 7 times, and Unai Emery has won but 1 game. Now, I'm a believer that the longer these types of trends go on, the less likely they are to continue, which is just the nature of odds. But both clubs have done incredible business this past summer. The difference is we've had Unai Emery since November of 2022. His way is absolutely concrete. He's amassed an incredible 1.95 points per game average with Aston Villa. Lopetegui is just starting his project at West Ham, and he's trying to integrate everyone together and get them on the same page. Here's a quick prediction. Obviously, Aston Villa is going to have to release a second kit pretty quickly here because West Ham stole our colors. As I mentioned in the last show, I'm going to do a more comprehensive type season prediction show after the transfer window is over and we know what all the squads look like in the Premier League. I might even have some guest predictions as well. But if you were to apply Unai Emery's impressive points per game total to this season, we could have 74 points, which would be an increase over last year, and still finish in the top 4. What we have to remember, though, is that Unai Emery inherited the squad that earned him 1.95 points per game up until this point. Now, with the help of his compatriot Monchi, he has created a squad that is in his style and image. And yes, there are probably 1 and even 2 major key pieces missing and may still be acquired. But we've got to remember what he was able to accomplish last year with 3 players lost to season-ending injuries and many others who were out for extended periods. And now myself and my family are off for a slightly later than usual cabin vacation, and I do love this time of year in British Columbia, Canada. It's a little cooler at night now. There's this marine cloud in the morning that burns off into beautiful days. There's this sense of normalcy and routine just coming around the corner with football back. And of course, this time of year means that Wayne Rooney is still losing and getting thumped in the process. Oh, I love mid to late August, don't you? Until West Ham, buckle up, brace yourself, and bring it on. The regular season is finally here, and until the trip to London Stadium, be well, and as always, up the mighty Villa!